Hey everyone, welcome to the Middle School Visual Arts PLC group. My name is Alicia Montgomery and I'm the moderator for this group. It was really created with you in mind. Our goal is to collaborate and support each other as we navigate the craziness of teaching middle school visual arts. Whether you are the only one in your system or one of many, we know you're going to find things here to help you. In order to make this as beneficial as possible for everyone, be sure to set up your notifications and check back often to see posts, discussions, and support that will be showcased. Please engage in discussions and offer up any support or questions that you may have. Also, share this platform with friends and colleagues. So this is the third part in our Surrealism series, and this one's going to deal with how do I do accommodations and assessments for these projects. So some of the accommodations that I use for our surreal figure is if I have students that have trouble cutting or gluing, right, we may use pre-cut images or shapes. I may let them cut out some shapes and add those and then draw other parts. We may use glue sticks instead of liquid glue because we usually use liquid glue and a glue spreader to spread that out. All right, some of my students, because of their motor skills issues, have difficulty doing that, so we may use glue sticks instead. For students who have really detailed images and maybe they're artistically gifted, I'll give them X-Acto knives to use instead of just using scissors. Or I may have safety scissors for my students that are learning to cut and learning how to use those fine motor skills. A student could use images that they choose and maybe have a peer or a para or a teacher cut them out for them. Right? They could tear them out of the magazine and tell the person the parts that they want, and then we could cut those out and use those. Or you may choose to have them just hand draw their figure. And so they can look at different images and just draw those things in. For the surreal scene where we combine the collage with the digital effects, again, we could use pre-cut images or shapes, glue sticks versus liquid glue, X-Acto knives for those students that are more gifted in art. Have a student choose the images and then have someone else cut them out for them. And again, we could use the hand-drawn images. If they're having trouble with the computer side of things, I would pair them with another student who did the technology well and had finished their project already to help guide them through those steps, to help them with the layers or help them with scanning their picture in, right? Helping them come up with a word to use for their image. Right, here's some accommodations for the Surreal Cube project. Again, some of the same ones, using pre-cut images or shapes, using glue sticks versus liquid glue, X-Acto knives for those gifted and talented students. Students could choose the images and we could cut them out for them. We could use hand-drawn images. For those students that have trouble cutting, I would go ahead and pre-cut the sides of their cube for them, or you could use a small box. So their sides may not all be square, but you could still use that as a template. So they could trace the sides of the box onto their paper and cut it out, and then they could glue that onto the side of whatever kind of box or whatever size box you're using. Shoe boxes work really good for that. If you have boxes that like your Sharpies come in, okay, the bigger boxes, you could use those. Anything that's on the smaller side, you wouldn't want to use something as big as like a paper box unless you're having a whole group work on that. All right, I use these assessments for pretty much all of the projects. So one of the things that I look for is your figure or creature surreal? And the way I set this up is I usually do the assessment question, and then I'll have 4 different options. that the students can choose from. Or you could set it up on a point system. So maybe this part is 15 points, and if they do it really, really well, then they earn all 15 points. If it's kind of in the middle, then they might earn 10, or if it's weaker, they may earn 5. Right? So it depends on what is easier for you to grade as to how I would set that up. I make it as simple for myself as I can because I only see my students every other day for 9 weeks, so I don't have a whole lot of time with them. The next thing that I look at is, did you create a unified work of art using movement and contrast? And so it's real easy to see their movement where they tried to incorporate movement into their artwork. Do they have repetition? Do they have those lines in the background? Did they use many of the different elements of art? And did they also use Unity to help create those things? Do you have a background that fits with the rest of your artwork? Does your person or figure look like it's actually sitting in there? Or does it look like it was just stuck on there crazy? Did you use a verb to describe your picture, and does it show movement if you're doing the combined collage? Do you have good craftsmanship? And I explained to my students, remember, your craftsmanship is your neatness. So did you cut out your edges nice and neat? There's not background stuff hanging out in different areas. Did you use your glue spreader so that you didn't have glue squishing out everywhere and your paper is not all wrinkly? Did you cut your images cleanly so they fit together well? Okay, the next one, did you use your tools and materials wisely? Okay. Were you using them responsibly, or were you doing silly things like acting like you're going to cut the table or your friend's clothes? And the next one, did you use your time wisely and put forth your best effort? So I talked to my students about what that means, is using your time wisely. Did you stay on task the whole time? Or were you sitting there not working, just chit-chatting with your friends or daydreaming? So we talk about that. And we talk about how that's each day that they work on the project, not just the last day when it's time to turn it in. And the last one is your work creative and original. Did you try to come up with new ideas, or were you copying my example or one of your classmates? And so that's kind of how I assess that part of their artwork. And then they have a reflection part that they also have to do, and they have to write that in. So the reflection, I ask them questions about the project. So first they have to list the elements and principles of art that they used. And they can use their notes to do that. So they can give me examples of how they used pattern, or how they used movement, or how they used contrast, or how they created unity in their artwork. Then the next one is to, in their own words, they need to define what surrealism is. They have to give me an example of where they used movement and where they used contrast. And then I also asked them to think about what they did well with their project and give me one specific example. And then what could they have done better with their project? And I asked for them to give me one specific example. So that way they can kind of see their strengths and their weaknesses. So hopefully they can improve those weaknesses for the next project that they have. So that kind of sums up our surrealism unit and kind of how we do that in my classroom. I hope you can use these. I hope you can pick one or two to kind of rotate. Sometimes I do it with 6th grade. Sometimes I do a different one with 7th grade. The cubes I usually did with 8th grade. They usually tend to work a little bit faster and a little more mature. So you can kind of pick and choose. I hope you enjoy them. I hope they'll be helpful for you. Thank you for joining us. Please take a few minutes to participate in the discussion question. I can't wait to hear all of your wonderful ideas and share some of my own. So be sure to subscribe. Also, be sure to subscribe also so you don't miss out on any of the updates, posts, discussions, or any of the fun.